himself. He created the words, and Gemini Brett created the words, and I have created the music. So, and it's just in honor of the directions. So here we go. Are we on? Looks like it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Water.
You're welcome.
Happy solstice-ish, friends. It's wonderful to have so many of you here gathered together as it is in this weird modern way, I guess. I wish we could all be outside under stars and with fire lit, which is a strange thing to say in the winter time, right? So maybe also strange to start like this at night, but it felt very appropriate because in so many ways, this time is the beginning of the midnight of the year. For Northern Hemispherian folks anyway, we have this strange thing with astrology, really, which is this seasonal opposition, this tale of two hemispheres, as it were. But I'm going to speak of my local experience here in California. I just watched the sunset into a place I call Solstice Hill. It's the furthest southern setting of the sun at this time of the year, where we have our longest nights and our shortest days. And in the present moment where I sit, there's a Cancer moon on the rise. So it's really nice to feel this soul family connection. And maybe we'll look at some astrology charts and some other things as we move along here. But I think most importantly, and my mantra always, whether it's a reading or a teaching or anything, is heart before chart. And I've really been called into the wheel of the year again. I spent so much of my own ceremonial time in the rhythms of silver and gold, the new moon, the lunations, which is a wonderful thing to do, where we just had our full moon last night and a super high in the northern hemisphere sky, crazy high Gemini full moon. And I'm there, and I'm also wanting to be in this place of the wheel of the year and the earth and the sun and the Christmas tree or the world tree. So I'm excited to share some of the mysteries of the sacred astronomy mysteries that we find in some of the Christmas tradition. But I feel so importantly that as human beings, especially at this time of robot takeover, it's really important for us to stay human and to stay earthling. So there's nothing that I could encourage more than getting outside and eating some snow, should your local climes allow, or just seeing what Earth does where you are at this time of the year, at this turning of the year. So I'm going to do a little show and tell from my walk earlier today and just show you some of what I saw out there. First is the oak, right? The oaks here in the bay are these live oak trees, and this is the current state. Yeah, so they were pretty green not long ago, and now we're getting this browning of the tips. The big leaf maple maybe showing it a little bit more, and where James is in Washington State and Water in Portland and Oregon, I imagine their plants have advanced a little bit more than ours even. I really loved this one, which is a drone tree down the block, and it has these hanging, life, these kind of Japanese lantern feeling beings coming in, just like this last week. All of a sudden that's been showing up on the leaves. We hear in our neighborhood here these pistache trees that are like in the autumn on fire, beaming, beautiful, radiant colors, like crazy, shocking, amazing. And now all the leaves are gone, and this is happening. These like beautiful berry balls, which of course reminds me of the holly and the many kind of red berries we're seeing around right now, which is very much a sign of the times and a symbol of Christmas, yeah, and solstice throughout time and these many winter ceremonies. So a couple more. One was the rosemary, which is flowering so beautifully. And I think it's so wonderful to tune into like the flowers and the fruits that happen at times when other beings are going to sleep and going quiet and hibernating for a bit, you know, and that I think is a really blessed reminder. So the tree in the home, if it's there or outside, which you might call a Christmas tree, or in many lands, a New Year's tree. Like tomorrow, I'm giving a presentation for a group in Turkey where they do a New Year's tree and put lights on it and put a star on it and all these things. But it's been an age-old tradition well before Christmas was associated with Christ, right? Of Yule, to honor trees in this way, or really bring that symbol in of eternal life, and the one that stays green through this time where most of the trees lose leaves and show bare branches. And, you know, in many of the traditions from the north, this, like Samhain, right, and another one of the spokes on the wheel of the year, is a time to honor and to celebrate our ancestors and the dead. This quiet time, it reminds us to have dead time in our own lives, for us to go still, slow down, right? I mean, there's this interesting thing in the way that we play time these days that Isabel, the dog, does not like too much, of, you know, what are called civil hours, and that every hour is 60 minutes long. And, you know, we need to comply with some kind of global time so we can get to our Zoom meetings, right? But, you know, it's the old tradition is that on days which have very long nights and very short amount of times of daylight, the daytime hours are shorter than the nighttime hours. And as these daytime hours get shorter and shorter, right, 1/12 of daylight, of course, the shortest of that being winter solstice, and that's our reality now in the northern hemisphere. And these night hours get longer and longer and longer, right? We're reminded in those like long dark hours to lengthen our darkness, to allow ourselves to be in space, to allow ourselves to kind of come in, you know, and that the daylight hours get shorter and shorter. So, you know, it wasn't long ago that the 12 days of Christmas begin on Christmas and take you to Epiphany. But it's been quickly reset. So they lead into Christmas, so you can buy your sweetie turtle doves and French hens and all the things, right, to support this kind of consumerism vibe. And as I get out and about, even now with the world so shut down, these bright lights in the shopping realms, you know, and the cherry major chord music happening on the speakers and that. And I mean, I think there's a beautiful thing that this is a time in the darkest hour to celebrate life and celebrate the rebirth of life, right? So I'm not inviting you here to be completely depressed, just deep rest. And I feel sometimes like some of these modern inventions, like, you know, this is the jolliest, cheery time of the year, really takes us away from that natural calling of, you know, of our mother of earth, to come in and be held by her and be in our sleep and be in our dream and really like enter space. Yeah. So that's, I guess, my invitation for myself and anyone who chooses to receive it, like less time and more space at this beautiful, spacious time of the year. So I'm gonna light a candle over here, and if you have one close by, feel free to grab one. I'm gonna encourage us to have kind of a stare at the flickering candle meditation. And so if there's not one nearby, then close your eyes and see the candle within. Maybe I'll set something up here on Well, I'd say on my screen, but James is going to be playing, and so it's his camera that's going to take over. So you can look and stare at the beautiful dancing flame that is James O'Keefe, which is a smart thing to do anyway. Or you can close your eyes and be with the candle inside, or wherever you are in space and time. Maybe light a candle in your room, and we can just tune into that beautiful dancing of the light. And my invitation for you is to contemplate, what does light mean? I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Alyssa Callie of the Moon Den, who just sent some wonderful, amazing candles my way. And this is her winter solstice candle that I will be lighting on my end. And so James is going to play some handpan for us to just kind of stretch that space and allow us a beautiful bed to rest within. And I don't know, maybe we'll do 7 minutes of tuning in. And so the invitations are, what is it for the light to be overcome by night and then reborn at this time, the rebirth of the sun? And maybe I'll share a couple more things from the traditions of old, right? So wassailing, like the door to door, and really connecting in community. Feasts, right? Where, of course, plates were left for the spirits. And some say there would be no cleaning up of the table until the morning, because the spirits, our ancestors, those that have passed on, will come in during the night to eat their share. Loud noise, screaming and banging, and that's, of course, a tradition that we retain into this modern time. A couple more of those bangs, James. Yes. Right, and that's because, there might be some spirit showing up that you don't want to stay the night in your home. And also, very importantly, right, and maybe especially this year, this time, screaming the last year dead. Yeah, and screaming the new year in, right? Just as when a loved one dies, it is appropriate to express grief. Yeah, and as a baby comes in, they come into this crying in the world and connected to this mother who screams to give them energy to embody, right? So I'm reading here in the chat as fireworks are going off in the city. Yeah, so any of these things that maybe have brought for you an invitation of how you want to do these next 7 minutes, well, I will open my ears to this beautiful music by James and stare at this candle and let the old one go and the new one come in. Thank you so much, James. It really, like, I personally just have such a greater opportunity to tunnel in when there's sound, extending the invitation. And I imagine that's true for most of you. I mean, there's a reason why the mysteries were only taught along with the instruction of music, right? In the day, like, you don't learn astrology without learning vibration, learning sound, and learning geometry, and learning number magic, and learning astronomy. And so we'll speak, I think, a little bit about astronomy today, but I also want to keep it here in the heart before we get all chart for a while still. If anyone feels like sharing anything in the chat that comes in along the way, I've just been really appreciating looking here and there, and at some point I'm going to get to scroll through, I think. But I guess, again, the most important thing I can share is, or invite, is a willingness to go inside. You know, I was noticing last night, I took the dog for a walk, and it was this huge moon at the time. The full moon was coming up, maybe in the 11th house up here. And I mean, I saw the moon when I stepped out of my door. And I mean, the dog was yanking me to where she wanted to be, honestly. So I wasn't like in that state of presence where I would like to be. But most importantly, you know, I saw moon and I gave thanks and I noticed, and then I followed Isabella down the hill a little more quickly than I would have liked to have moved, but she should have her way too, I feel. And then we got to a park down the way and I stepped into silver light and out of the streetlights. And it was the first time where the moon fullness shined into my experience, into my being. Many of us, certainly I, most of us maybe at this time, are living in these, you know, urban places with so much false light, and it can be a wonderful thing to see, and to be able to get around at night and maybe feel safe in that. But we've really lost that connection to natural light into the month. And again, I think just some of the, I don't want to say deceptions, but some of the ways that we do time now, we're really losing that natural time. And I feel that the more of us who reclaim natural time connection, you know, whether it's connecting to the lunar cycle and planting our intentions in this, or following the sun through the signs, which are solar months, and that's a thing too, or really just having a practice and waking up with the sun, or going to sleep with the sunset, or going inside, you know, taking time during the day to celebrate the shortest shadow when the sun reaches its height. Like, as we are keeping these old ways through our practice, they have a place to live and thrive. And as we extend these teachings to the children, you know, I mean, why should we expect kids to know about the phases of the moon, or to know, you know, that clocks used to go like this for a really important reason? Because it's not seen as a high priority for teaching in school, because that's not what life's about anymore, but it can be, as we know it is. And so it's up for us to extend that information to the kids. It's up for us to help these kids understand, you know, that Christmas, if that's what's happening near you, is more than some cat with a bag of toys, right? And so whether it's that you tune into the birth of the sun, if you hear that as I do in those stories of Christ, or the world tree, in that tree that's brought into the home, and the very special star at its top, and these lights that are strung around the bough. So I'm excited to share a little bit more about that. But I think before we go there, some more music for the heart, and perhaps we can ask water to help us celebrate the light that is only found in the dark.
From the darkness, only light can grow. Mother who guides her children on paths they must take. We're given this gift, summer, fall, winter, spring, the cycles of life that teach us everything. So when it's dark and it's time to go inside, go. So when you're ready, the time of your light will rise within you and glow. Blessed be the dark night of the soul. From the darkness only light can grow. Blessed be the dark night of the soul. From the darkness only light can grow. No matter what cave draw us in, let us feel the bravery to go deep inside that place of a friend that is this holy, 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 the cycles turning forever, returning from the darkest place. And when I feel I am falling, I'll wait for the light to return in grace. Blessed be the dark night of the soul, for only light can grow. Blessed be the dark night of the soul, for only light can grow.
I like this from Melinda. Oh my God. Water. I'm taking my children on a hike during solstice, and it was either between Weldon Springs or another place. And now clearly we can make up our mind. So the song itself is a divination device. That was such a beautiful song, Water. I haven't heard that before. And you know, I never know with you. Is that something that you've written, or is that something that just happened in this moment?
I wrote that song a couple years ago for a winter solstice gathering I was playing. And
Hmm.
so I just made up the last little bit, the last little verse. I improv'd right now, but otherwise, yes, that is a written one.
It's a
Thank
lovely
you.
written one. Is that some place online that folks can find it?
I'll put a little link to my music in the chat.
Yeah. Well, and for folks who are listening to this later, because that will be a thing.
We'll just look watereye.us and you can find from there links to Bandcamp and SoundCloud and YouTube and all the
Beautiful.
things, Spotify and such. Thank you
Yeah,
so
please,
much.
please do link that in the chat, and I'll try to remember to put watereye.us or .us
Yes.
wherever I'm sharing this. What an amazing song. I'm excited to listen back to that.
Thank
And when
you.
that's recorded, please let me know. That needs to be added to my go deep and meditate about life and death to learn about life list, which is wonderfully growing because there's so many just beautiful heart-centered experienced in the grow through what we go through game, like Water and James. And I'm really blessed to have had the opportunity to meet you all in life and spend time with you. Water, this earth is on a metal wire, a hanger that came from that closet in that room some years ago. Just got like reborn today. My earth spins again and is less peely. It's been so well worn. I've done this so many times in teaching classes. And now featuring a yellow rotational axis, because it is the way that axis orients towards the light, towards the sun, that is the reason for the seasons. And that's a place I'd love to go. But James, I'm wondering, I feel like I can hear a song. Do you feel like singing to us?
Sure.
Yay.
I've had some microphone funniness, so just let me know if this needs to be adjusted. All right. Now, water taps into a very universal place in all of our worlds, not just water eye, but water in all of us. And I'd like to kind of transition from that dark night of the soul into how I frame the solstice for setting an intention for the year. And I hope that we can all connect all of our water, and at this dark time, go into that dream realm together, allow our minds to clear, allow our hearts to guide, because inside each of our heart is an intention for every moment, for every lunation, for every year, for every life cycle, for every breath cycle. So just kind of reaching in there, and I'd like to set a setting for this freestyle channeling of this solstice for all the folks listening right now. In my bed at night, I prepare the light of my own soul for a ride, planning to journey far, off beyond the soaring wings of my dreams, into every boulder we have reached for, and moving obstacles and following the water through the pathways only Earth can teach these mortal souls. It comes and it goes. So offering my whole being, I say now, here, folding in, intending my peace for whatever it needs, intending peace for every last seed, intending peace in the branches that reach up high with their leaves and flowers. Watch them touched by the full moon into the beautiful fruit. And so I plant this fruit of peace in the darkness on the solstice, loading up my dreams in this open chasm of space. The nothingness erases my attachment to how it will taste. The fruit is worth every last ounce of effort I put into the chase. In through Imbolc, I will see her sprout up once again. The peace becomes another tree, growing up tall, my friends, as the summer sun reaches high at noon. An echo of the solstice that I've seen, an echo of the fruit falling through. Oh, combining the rising, the resting, the reaching, the roots until every single cycle follows through the breath I'm pedaling like a bicycle. On this journey we go through it, each and every one another, holding hands until we breathe together like the lover that we heard earlier. Summer flowers with the full moon into fall. I can envision the peace I seek with all these cycles coming round again. All of it spiraling down into the endless end, endless end. So intending peace from the depths of the seed, intending peace. It's all we need. Intending peace for all of your intentions to weave together a beautiful seed.
Amazing. Thank you, James. Yeah, one of my favorite things about these two is they could just freestyle songs that you would swear that they've written and performed 1,000 times. And it's so cool because when we do this live or like this, I'll just hear words that were just spoken like weave their way in. So the song that we started with from Water, the rise and reach and rest and roots, Water and I were, I think, celebrating autumnal equinox together one year, if I'm right. It was one of these turnings at a friend's community, and I was talking about that rise and the reach and the rest and the roots is one of the ways that I teach the astronomy and the angles, and then Water started singing that towards the end, and then I was like on walkabout for a while, traveling around. I spent a lot of time in Hawaii, and I wrote these lyrics and sent them to Water, and then she created that amazing song. And I'm really intent upon at some point during my go to work with brilliant musicians like Water and James to create songs to transmit these, sacred astronomy teachings and these teachings of astrology. Because when we hear the message transmitted through melody, it's just so much easier to receive those words in our heart, So I would tell you exactly where to go find that song by James, except he just created it in the moment. So the answer is a few minutes into the past. And this video will be up on my YouTube channel. I'll send out a link to everybody who registered for the Zoom, which of course includes those that are here live. So, if you want to review, you'll be able to do that there. All right. Well, speaking about months in the year of silver, it's interesting in this year of 2023, year 2022. I'm getting ahead of myself, as I often am wont to do. But 2022, according to the Empire Pope calendar that most of us seem to have signed up for without being asked at some point before coming in. That 2022 calendar year is one of those that has 13 new moons. Usually we'll have 12 about every third year, sometimes fourth. We have 13 new moons in a calendar year. I personally prefer to begin my own energetic calendar with the winter solstice, and in the northern hemisphere, of course, that means December solstice and the sun's entrance into the tropical sign of Capricorn, right? And climbs the mountain. And we have our first new moon after solstice on January 2nd, as the Gregorian calendar calls it. And then another one next year, just after December solstice. I think it's December 23rd or something. So I have been playing with a dear friend of mine from back when I was playing music. Is my principal offering in life, and toured around with a wonderful pianist named Erik Deutsch for many years when we were young and trying to grow up together. And Erik and I recently got together and created this soul song album for the 13 new moons of 2022. And the way that works is I look at the chart. I don't have a new moon chart actually on the screen, but let's play with this chart. Oh, wait a second. I need to push. Well, I guess I'll play with this chart. That's coming pretty soon after this solstice-ish full moon that we had last night as I'm recording this. We will very soon, in a couple of weeks as it is, in a fortnight as it goes, have the first new moon of 2022, which is this 12 1/3 degrees tropical Capricorn happening here. And what I do with Erik is I see every sign related to one of the notes of an astrological octave. And in the map that we use what's called the chromatic map. A is Aries, and the next half step up from there, the next tone up from there, A sharp or B flat, is Taurus, and then B is Gemini, and it's like that, right? So this is a very interesting thing that's happening for some time moving into the beginning of next year, where we have this kind of long-standing draconic bull. We've had some over the course of the last couple of years. They're not that common, where all of the planets are hanging out within the lunar nodes of the moon. And so it's weird in the system that we use right now, because we're basically confined to using these notes that are like in half of an octave. But fortunately, Erik is just a master pianist, and he's able to do this. So anyway, one thing that I give him is this kind of list of notes that he's allowed to use based upon which signs are populated by planets. In this case, he's not supposed to play these notes over here. And then I create these harmony games for Erik that are based on some of the significant aspects in a chart. So like in this new moon chart, we notice that the new moon in Capricorn is itself in a very strong trine with Uranus here, who has a square with Saturn. And there's this kind of tension of, is the square and this release of the trine, right? And of course, music really lives in this place of tension and release. So I'm going to bring you into this first song or song of the first new moon of the calendar year 2022, or the first new moon since this south solstice, as I'm fond of calling the December solstice. It's a global thing. And this would be another place, I think it's about 7.5 minutes long, where I invite you to dive in and explore that darkness in you, that rest in you, that deep place in you, and that place where the very light is sourced. And we ask yourself, what is the principal intention you have to move from this last year into the next? In fact, one of the principal symbols that I offered to Erik, along with those notes and harmony gains and the production notes that I sent to him, was Janus, with one head looking back toward the year past and one young face looking forward to the year ahead, whispering quietly the word hope. Right. And then it goes into the next song, and there's 13 of those, and they're all beautifully different. Like the Scorpio one next year, which is a solar eclipse, like with Venus, is pretty haunting, actually. And the Libra one before is this kind of fun funk thing. And then the Gemini new moon is one of my faves. It's just like so Gemini. It's like bouncy around. I want to show you where you can find that online to listen to, or also to purchase if you would like. And that's at Erik's Bandcamp page. So where you can find a bunch of Erik's music. He's such an incredibly genius piano player, a keyboard player. I mean, Erik's played with Nora Jones and the Dixie Chicks and Citizen Cope and Leftover Salmon and Charlie Hunter and so many great jazzers. I mean, you name it. Amazing, amazing being. And so this is the space. It is Erik Deutsch, music.bandcamp.com. I'll put that in the descriptions of this video when all things are said and done here, and also in the chat box here. And you can download the record for $7 or name a price if you want to support our project, or offer this as a gift maybe for someone who loves the energies and the movements of the years, the days and the years, and especially the months and the moons, since that's what this particular record's about. So may it serve well, may it be a vehicle for meditations, for the lunations, the new moons, for this next year of 2022. While I am here, I want to bring you to my website, or to this other link, which I will also share. And you can find this also at geminibrett.com, a little bit easier to remember. If you hit the courses page, you will find, this is the first time I've announced this, Earthstrology school. I've decided to start a school, and I'm really excited about that. It came in suddenly for me the other day in a meditation, as I was thinking about a class that I could contribute to a friend's community space. She asked me to come and teach, and I was like, I mean, it's so nice. I've taught for so many different communities, and I'm really blessed to be invited in this way so often. Communities like Astrology Hub, or the Organization for Professional Astrology, or Kepler College, or Cosmic Intelligence Agency. I mean, there's so many. And it was like, wait a second, maybe I should start a school. I've been hesitant. I've had private students for a long time, and it's one of my favorite, amazing joys in my life, to transmit these mysteries. And those of you who study with me know that usually we start with swinging the compass and the sacred geometry, and we talk about music, and we certainly talk about astronomy and the signs. And but I haven't had the go ahead yet, I guess, from the guides to start my own astrology school until now. And it's happening. And the school is called Earthstrology for a very important reason. It's about embodying the astrological energies, doing this in an earth way. In fact, I will prove, among other things along the way, that the tropical zodiac is the zodiac of Earth. It's the zodiac beneath our feet, at the core, at the heart of our mother. And so it's going to begin with a year of gold, tuned to the golden year and the golden months, with the sun moving through the signs. So I'll do 24 classes. There'll be a class every month on the archetype of the sign, and then a kind of academic class following that on topics like polarity and dispositorship and triplicity, as you may know, as elements, and quadruplicity or modalities, and sect, and all sorts of things. And so in the first year, the year of gold, where it'll be tuned to the solar months, and the second year, the year of silver, where we'll tune it now to the rhythms of the lunations, including the amazing 2 Aries new moons of 2023, the second being a solar eclipse. And then for students who want to keep moving past those energies, which really will be devoted to embodying astrology from the ground up, like tuning into, what we often call the basics, but really it's about the foundation. And if you know my work, you're going to find some, I think, astronomical keys and some sacred geometry and some musical harmony and some number magic keys that will, I think, help you deepen your relationship to your intimate experience of an expression of these archetypal forces more deeply, perhaps. In year 3, which will be some time from now, that's like when I've given myself the green light to really start teaching deep technique and how to approach a chart. So that stuff's going to be happening along the way. But anyway, if you'd like to know more about that, I'm going to, in the chat right now, for those of you who are here live or later in video places, in the descriptions of the video, I will type a link where you can go and sign up for the waitlist. The school is going to start in January of 2022, right around the corner. And we'll do ceremonies like this throughout the year. We'll do equinox and solstice ceremonies and ceremonies at the cross quarters as well. So really going to be that kind of wheel of the year, golden year type of year for astrology. And I'm just so excited to see what comes, and also to build community through it and to receive deep wisdom from all of you and all who join. It's one of my greatest gifts as a teacher. As we share, of course, we learn from these amazing beings that we have the opportunity to dance with. So I'm just so appreciative of the present that is your presence. Those are the few that are here in the present, or in what I currently perceive to be as the future. It is so wonderful to have this opportunity to share what I'm hearing when I get outside and look to the sky, which always reminds me that first and foremost, I am of the Earth, the most important planet of them all. So links in the chat for those of you who are here live, sign up. I'll let you know when classes start. There'll be one free class in January, the Capricorn class. And also, if you sign up on that list, which will just put you on the list that I will be emailing with information about the school, I will soon send you a free masterclass on the septagram, the magical 7-pointed star, and the planetary days and the hours, and why 7, 12, and 24, and other fun things like that. I do think that as long as I have you here, if you'd like to stay, I'm going to get a bit academic here and show you some of the mysteries of this world tree, where we can find the Christmas tree and the star on top and the circle of the wreath and the spinning dreidel, and even Santa Claus and his interesting choice for abode. And the reindeer, and why that one has a red nose. And this is written in the stars, my friends, of course, as it is. So before I go there, one thing I will say is it's probably time to tuck kids into bed, if they are, ones who are writing that list to our North Pole friend. Still, because there will be some reveals that I don't want to be that one to take myth from anyone. I am one to wish to add to it. Okay, so hopefully that was not too poetic of a warning. And before we go there anyway, we want to make sure we end this thing right, which is in the heart. And fortunately, we have an incredibly heart-centered woman here, Water Eye, who I know to be one of the freestyle queens of the world, and perhaps who is willing to stitch the many things we've already heard today into a song of this moment for you. If she is, and I'm guessing yes, my invitation for you all is to really tune into what is on your wish list for this year ahead, for this time. What blessings would you like to see delivered into this world? Yeah, it is never the right time to stop believing, my friends. In fact, we need more of that. So what is it that you believe in, and what is it that you wish for solstice this year?
Gemini, will you give me 3 words of what you will be speaking of when you start to get into storytelling?
Yeah. Yes. How about world tree or just tree, whatever. How about something on a sleigh full of gifts, or just the sleigh, if you prefer a single word there as well. And like a spinning top.
Oh.
Right, like that toy, the top.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
And prepare yourselves, friends, for live magic.
Breathe in me, breathe this deep, breathe with a body holding my feet close to home, holding me. Close to home, holding me. As my top spins, sometimes lose my way. As this world cycles, sometimes I lose my day. As my top tries to find how to land in balance, as this world roots itself into the hearts of the children. Breathe in me, breathe in deep, breathe in the presence that is delivered through the trees. Breathe in me, breathe it deep. Oh, breathe in the presence that is delivered through the tree. Oh, this tree rooted deep down, this tree rooted keeping me to the ground, holding my gravity, holding me now, holding my soul to give it a sound. Oh, this tree that's rooting deep, while my top is spinning me, finding directions to keep me centered as this world goes crazy. Breathe in, breathe in deep, breathe, breathe in deep, breathe with the presence that is under the trees. We will breathe in deep, we will breathe
During this time when seems so much is about giving. During this time when seems so much is about winning. Remembering the great dipper moving to remind me to breathe in deep, the magic keeping me close to the roots of the trees, reminding me your presence is all I need. Oh, breathe in deep, reminding me presence beneath the tree, beneath me. Breathe in deep, and the presence under the tree is the gravity keeping me close to the ones that help me breathe. So I will breathe in deep with the presence of the tree, reminding me that in this gravity on this world tree I am breathing deep, breathing deep, reminding me of the presence I seek. Is this gravity holding my feet close to the roots that help me breathe? And as my top seems to be spinning, I see the cradles around me, pouring out presents on the world tree. As we are breathing deep with the presence of the trees, reminding us the gravity keeps us grounded to breathe.
James, I think you should just turn on your mic and share that. That's how I'm feeling as well.
Woo!
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
so hard to be in the presence of amazing live music and not hear that, right? Or, I mean, in these wonderful connections where I met Water, where I met James, we're always out celebrating, typically like this, like a turning of the year, season, a new moon, something special, a birth, a death, you know, and when we're all in a room, we can feel that heart and come together and celebrate and applause and snaps and gleeful expression. It's necessary, y'all. So let me just take a second, and I know we can't hear you right now, but if everyone would maybe just cheer. Yes. I think it's really, 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 really crucial for us to be in that remembrance that, you know, there's a reason to make noise. There's a reason to sing song, right? There's a reason to celebrate life in this way. And there's a reason to let the old go and the new come in. And it is my hope that this gathering together will have helped you just bring more energy into your own choices of that wish list that's so important, you know, what you choose through your own volition to leave behind as the wheel turns, or to compost as it was into the rich and dark soil for planting these new seeds of the year to come. And there's no need for it to sprout yet. This is this time where we're meant to be at rest and really feeding into that energy with our dreams. James, I wonder if maybe there's a thing or two you'd like to say to add to that about the significance of this time of the year and the story of the plants.
Yeah, thank you. it's funny that the revelation of a wish list, a Christmas wish list, and this idea of a reset, leaving behind that which doesn't serve, planting an intention or a seed for that which will serve, that you dream to serve, just clicked. I'm like, oh, we ask for presents at Christmas time and get rid of the presents. And I had never put that together until right now. So that was a really cool revelation. And what is one thing that I was feeling from the plants about changing from one succession to another succession? Like as we grow and become more complex and more mature beings, both as individuals, as a species, and as a planet, we are on this path. And if we look to the wise teachers like advanced ecosystems like the rainforests here in the Pacific Northwest, or deep ecologies in the Sonoran Desert, or deep ecologies in the Amazonian rainforest, or any of these advanced ecological areas on Earth that have a lot of teachers, they teach about aesthetic beauty, they teach about longevity, long living, they teach about sharing resources, and about maybe flowering less and less often, and patience. So I was feeling those lessons come through about how ecologies cycle from one to the next. You have the original ecology of a volcano rising up in the middle of the ocean, and it's pure sunlight, pure masculine hitting pure feminine matter, like just one step after darkness, just this dark earth. And then you have masculine, feminine meeting for this first time. And then the pioneer species, the first species that grow up to shield and protect the earth, they grow fast, and they are prolific in their reproduction. One size fits all, just almost like a dominator species. And we see this rising up of explosions of life. And then as they learn and grow to be a more complex, mature being, they start saying, hey, actually, maybe, I can fall down and allow more diversity of plants and creatures to grow up around me. And the point I'm getting at is that there seems to be a mechanism at work where the first succession, the less mature succession, is making the decision to change into a more mature version of itself in this cycle, this ever repeating spiral of life getting more and more complex and beautiful. And I asked the forest, like, what is it that causes the step from one succession to the next? And I looked around me and I saw many fallen branches and decaying matter all around me. And the forest answered in the bodies of one's past, or dead bodies, just this time of death and composting and the accumulation of all of that material, those bodies of those ones that came before, offering themselves to the next being as power, as information, as inspiration to become a new, more beautiful being. And I kind of see that in this year cycle of getting to gather all of the past years' body that we've accumulated, and then shedding that all and offering a very deep transformative death into this solstice time of year, with the trust and the knowledge that what comes afterwards is not death but life.
Yes. I mean, I think we are like full front and center with the inability to live that results in a culture who is afraid of death. And it really is like the sickness of the world at this time. When we reach back into the mystery traditions, life was about learning how to die. And to learn how to live, we look into the eyes of the skeleton, we look into the eyes of death. In this time of year, it is just so important. I really appreciate that, that reframing of that word depressed with deep rest at a time when I needed it in my life. And I know that, depression itself is a lack of deep rest in our culture, right? Including the deepest rest, which is death, and that celebration of that, edge of life, of that ending, which is the beginning of the ending, we might imagine. And this is, of course, one of the important reasons to celebrate the evergreen at this time, and whatever it is that you choose to put on top of your tree to celebrate that energy of life eternal. And that doesn't happen, however, without death, right? That's like the great ironic part of the thing. So yeah, I mean, I hope we will choose to renature our experience more and more as we move through life. I hope you'll receive that invitation to just walk down the street and see what the trees are doing in this moment, and see what they do next week, and see how, your local earth celebrates this turning of the wheel, and really reclaim that connection to the teachings of the animals, and to the migration of the birds, and to the songs of the plants. They really help us understand what it is to be a human being at a time where, if some have their way, we will all be cyborg, transhuman robot beings, and not too long. I mean, I don't want to turn my back on the gifts of these devices that help us connect in like this, in our own nodes of the web around the world, but I think it's really important that we remember that we also have heart mail and, a heart web, and that we can tap into that anytime. So I'm blessed by knowing so many of you. There's so many of my favorite names that I see here live, and I'm sure to come. And James and Water, thank you so much for being here to help us all, and to help me open into this new year in a good way. It feels really rich in my heart. And thanks to Alyssa as well, whose candle is just like blessing this room right now. It's like cypress, balsam fir, and rosemary. It's goods. And to my brother Erik Deutsch for also, bringing these mysteries in through the music. It's, I think, how it can land best. So I'm going to get a little nerdy here, as I'm wont to do, and to bring us into the sacred astronomy of the thing. Water and James, if you feel like the moon is calling you outside, please do not feel in any way obligated to stay. And that goes for the rest of you too. This maybe has brought you into a place of opportunity for deeper contemplation, which might necessitate some experience of silence. And if that's where you're at, please shut this thing down and maybe head outside and howl at the moon, or head inside and celebrate you. And work on that wish list. The day soon comes. Yeah. And this year turns now. Let's turn it in a beautiful way. And let's remember to grow through what we go through, no matter what it is. And let us remember that regardless of which side you are on, when sides show up, that's an illusion, and that the heart is of oneness. And that we can literally just dissolve walls by choosing love over division. And that's up to us. It's up to each of us. That's the calling. That's like the challenge right now, isn't it? Yeah. So especially with gatherings, hopefully they are happening. And thanks for joining us in this way here. And hopefully soon it's on Earth, not just in the World Wide Web. So by the way, that's another thing that I'm just kind of excited to say about my school. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be next month. We will certainly start this Earthstrology school online. But there will certainly be under the star gatherings, and there will be many instructions of, how to see the stars that shine on all of us, like the zodiac stars, right? And also celebration of the stars that are for you and you alone, or your latitude of Earth, or whatever it may be. I will honor both northern and southern hemispheres in the school. However, especially in this first year, this year of gold, I'm going to be tuning it to my own personal local seasonal experience, which is the Northern Hemisphere experience. And then at the end of those classes, which are specifically tuned to that kind of experience, I'll do like a Southern Hemisphere addendum and maybe like a tropics addendum and maybe Arctics as well, because it's not just a tale of two hemispheres, this beautiful planet called Earth, you know, but tropics and temperate zones and Arctic zones and that. And the sky works differently in these different places. And the sky works differently if you have tall trees or tall mountains on your horizons or whatever it may be. Thanks to my beloved Anna, who I didn't even see this until you did, that she created this bit on my website, which she herself created some years ago now. And it's so wonderful to see these birds, which I'm just going to say are migrating in this. Well, it feels to me like a setting sun. And, you know, again, this year, this time of the year, this winter solstice time is really the midnight of the year. So I hope you'll sign up for the course, if for no other reason, to get a free teaching, because I will be sharing about the magical planetary days and hours and how that system works. I'm going to record that class, I think, maybe tomorrow or the next day, and send it out with some more information about Earthstrology school in this first year of gold and the next year of silver, and this idea of embodying the astrological mysteries from the ground up. This is out of focus because I zoomed way in, but this is a photo that I took actually from right here. And it was at another one of these really important turning times. It was on Beltane on May Day of 2021, where I was able to make eyes with Venus, who you see near the top of this blurry screenshot. And actually ahead of schedule, according to most of the astrologers. Venus should not have been visible yet, but I knew she would be. And I was there waiting with the camera, and I took a bunch of pictures. And then I put the camera away. And right then, well, maybe a minute into my drooling at the beauty of Venus and the sunset west and these colors of the sky's chakras, this owl flew in, landed on this tree, and was just staring at Venus in front of me. And then slowly looked around and saw me and was like, oh, like, you're into this too? Absolutely, dear owl. And then I said, hey, can I take a picture? And I think Owl said yes. I know I wanted Owl to say yes so badly that perhaps Owl said no, but all I heard was yes, 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 yes. But Owl did stay for the photo. And yeah, it was one of these most magical moments of my own life, those that I know you have had. So often they have come for me when I'm outside at important times like this, like a solstice time. And I choose, like, you know, rain, sleet, or snow, as they say, but where I live, it's like sun or rain, to get out and to celebrate these turnings. And just with my eyes wide open, to ask Earth to teach me about these relationships of our planet and our star, you know. And oftentimes I'll hear a word, I'll hear a name whispered, owl will fly in, or, you know, Anna and I were out hiking during one of these really important turnings some years ago, and it was lynx, you know, and it was Anna's lynx, right? I mean, it was lynx's lynx, but Anna's, he was like, hey, shh, like, look. And, you know, those cool ear extensions and big furry feet and all. And I think it's wonderful at those times to, like, reach into our, you know, power animal decks or whatever it may be, which can be really wonderful teaching tools. You know, what is this animal about? But most importantly, what do you hear in your heart, right? Like in that moment, or what was alive in your mind when Spirit came and sent a message to you, for you, a remembrance for you through one of these many teacher beings. For me, stars are like this, signs are like this. So I can go into, I mean, there's bookshelves over here, the ancients, what they would say about, you know, the star Regulus or whatever it may be, or I can first go to Regulus and ask, introduce myself. Am I meant to call you Regulus? That's what I heard. Am I pronouncing that right? Or is there another name we might share? And perhaps a song comes and whispers in our ears, or a smell that reminds us of that certain place, or, whatever it may be. So, yeah, for me to connect to these mysteries is a very personal thing. And there are ancient practices and ancient approaches and ancient vehicles for the transmission. And I'm so excited to have, I guess, stumbled into many of them, certainly not all, and I've had the opportunity to share them. Because always for me, my interest is not to teach someone my astrology, but rather teach them to further remember theirs, right? So sharing the path of initiation, like sharing the door to the temple, is not sharing what happens in there. That's a personal thing. And so one of the great gifts of astrology, of course, right, is we can take a moment like this, which is a global moment, right? Like, unlike January 1st at midnight, which is completely dependent upon where you are on Earth, right? Solstice, the sun moving onto this place of the world tree, is a very global thing, as is a full moon, right? This is maybe the closest I'm going to get this year to witnessing solstice sunset. This is just before we began this transmission today. Those trees just below where the light is shining behind those clouds are on the hill that I call Solstice Hill, because where I sit, that is where the December solstice, the winter solstice, Northern Hemisphere winter solstice, right? And importantly, globally, the South Solstice sun sets. And it will stay there for days. The sun stops, solstice, at the tropikos, which is Greek for turnaround. And from that place, the sun will turn around from its southerly course on this western horizon, or if I'm brave enough to wake up before the light, on the eastern horizon. The sun travels south for 6 months, from June solstice or north solstice till December solstice or south solstice. And where I am, I'm very blessed to have an experience, an opportunity to see the sunset every day of the year, if clouds allow, and I'm told the rain is going to soon come to be the soundtrack of the week ahead. So this might be the closest, or a picture I took a few days ago of having that opportunity to see the sun at its southernmost set. But I know from years before that it is that leftmost tree in the middle of that image on Solstice Hill where the December solstice sun sets right into that tree from where I sit. And these computers could blow up and I wouldn't have to count the days. I would know when the sun sets there that it is solstice time. Now the sun does stop. It's not there just for one day. It's there for a few, or even maybe a week. You tend to note that it has motion once again, both starting to move in its 6-month northerly course, or climbing in the sky at midday. That is, if you're in the northern hemisphere, of course. In the southern hemisphere, where the south solstice, the December solstice, is summer solstice, when the sun slowly begins to fall. But the falling happens in earnest in the autumn time, just as the springing up happens in earnest in the springtime. But here in the northern hemisphere, of course, it is the south solstice, when the sun, like a good goat, begins to climb that mountain in the air, right? And begins to move north. So this might be as close as I get to that visible experience, but maybe not. Maybe it'll clear up over the course of the next few days. We have an experience of the sun kind of clearly now starting to move north day by day, though very slowly, because it's starting from stop solstice at Christmas Day, at December 25th, as the calendar goes these days, right? And hence the sun is born, the coming of the light, coming out, northern hemisphere, I'll speak, from the longest night, right? And there's hope, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be cold, right? And of course, that's a local thing too. So what about the Christmas tree and the star on top? You know, on one level, I would actually very much align more to decorating some of those cedars that you can see through the window or something that lives in the backyard. And I think living tree is definitely a must for next year, because this is not that. And I think it's a strange thing to celebrate eternal life of the evergreen by cutting a tree down to bring it inside. Yeah, so that's been something in my youth. Or it was like plastic, which feels actually worse. Yeah, but that idea of a living tree, yeah, and moving it in or out, or just celebrating a tree outside, that's a little bit more my speed as I am now. So perhaps this is the last tree with a cut trunk that lives inside my house. I'm not sure. Maybe next year I'll be a hypocrite again. We will find out. Anyway, I wanted to show this because a couple of things. One, this particular star that we found, which I love, it lights up because that idea of the star of light, and that it is 4 and 8 and even 12, as you see in its geometries, and these long spokes, these long 4 being these significant turnings of the year, like solstice, like equinox, which I will share in my course, is much harder to witness, to experience, but we will learn to build not only old school sundials, but directional crosses to keep the year at those times when the sun is running on the horizons, right? It's much harder to see, to experience than it is when the sun is slow and stopped at solstice time. But, you know, I wanted to share these, one of many globes on our tree as well, where we see like a hand painted planet with rings. But isn't the globe itself the planet? And what I'll suggest is it's actually the tree. So we're at a very important part in this year. And this year itself, where we came pretty close to having a full moon at solstice time. So I'm calling it a solstice full moon. And that, of course, was just yesterday, as I'm recording this on Sunday, the day of the sun, yesterday on Saturn's day, as it was here in Pacific time, though it was already Sunday, and the 19th on the calendar for many and even most places in the world, right? This is weird thing that we're doing with time. What we can say for everywhere in the world is the sun was at 27 degrees and 28 arc minutes of tropical Sagittarius, right, at the galactic center, when the moon this month opposed the sun to become full, as measured from not the surface of the earth where we live and breathe and witness the heavenly happenings, but from the center of the earth. So I'm really excited to share more about geocentric versus topocentric, earth center versus earth's surface, and some of the strange things that we do in astrology, and what I feel is the clear spiritual intention behind that. Like, why shouldn't we not measure from the center of earth, where we are all one, where we are all connected? Perhaps that's the root of this great world tree, but perhaps not. So the sun at the galactic center and the moon at this place called the galactic anti-center. Some say the edge. That's how I first learned it, from Daniel Germario at the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. But well, everywhere that's not the center really is the edge of a disc, you know. And anti-center does not have to mean bad. It just means the opposite. Importantly, and I wish I could share an image with you here, but it's not happening today. It's in the middle of a place that modern astronomers call the winter hexagon, which currently is centered around 0 degrees tropical Cancer, and that changes with ages. The Dakota people, I understand, call this place the sacred hoop. They say it's where our souls come from. It's been called in other traditions the silver key or the silver gate, and galactic center at the other side, the golden gate, the golden key, where our souls will go. So there's strong energies right now in our day and age, in our epoch, with the world tree, the solstice axis aligning to galactic center. into the Milky Way, into this very important crossings, I'll say, of the ring of stars and the ring of gold. So more of that in the Earthstrology school. But for now, let me just say this is a powerful time we are living in. Of course, you know that to be true. And there are astronomical supports for that statement and prophecies from many ancient schools and many ancient teachers and cultures from throughout time and space around the globe. Speaking of globe, perhaps this tree here should point there. Why? Why turn the tree upside down? You know, it's weird, but in the Northern Hemisphere, our charts, which have a horizontal line to represent the ground upon which we stand, also have north down. That's a Northern Hemisphere thing. In the Southern Hemisphere, south down. The Southern Hemisphere chart, actually, if it were done in expression of a Southern Hemisphere experience, and sadly it's not, and that's a long story for another time, but let me just say a little bit. If it was, east would be on the right. So let me just leave that there. Okay. But in the Northern Hemisphere, north is down below the ground, the roots. And yet, why did I turn the tree upside down and put the top of the tree north then? Let me show you. The primary motion. You know, what is your first and foremost astronomical experience? And it's called day and night, thanks to Earth spinning on her rotational axis, right? One of our experiences of that here on Earth is the spinning of the sky. And in the middle of that spin, if you're witnessing this beautiful wheel of the heavens that keeps on turning from the Northern Hemisphere, is a very special star called Polaris, or North Star. Now, Polaris has not held either of those names for too long, because a North Star is a condition of an eon, of an age. Actually, North Star Polaris is becoming more north in the century to come, and it's the most northern aligned North Star of all time, according to modern astronomical thought, within the great cycle of the great year, which is about 26,000 years long, where Earth's axis, the spine of Gaia, as I like to call it, sweeps a great circle through the heavens. And our day and age, that axis is pointing to the star of Ursa Minor, the small bear, the small sleigh, the small wagon of the heavens, and the star now bears the name North Star and Polaris, because it is the star to which Earth's pole points. If Polaris had a really strong telescope and it looked at Earth, it would see this place centered, because that is the North Pole. Right, so Santa must live on a raft or something, I guess. You know, why are we told about this elf who lives at North Pole? Why there? Just because this is a transmission of, oh, Father Christmas or winter, or oh, Woden, or of, you know, Grandfather Frost. I mean, there's so many names throughout time. Like, why not just take that being and put him all the way at the North Pole, where of course it's coldest at this time, called South Solstice? Maybe it's something about this particular star, the center of the wheel of the heavens that keeps on spinning. Why? Because the Earth beneath our feet does. If we look at Earth like this, down from onto the North Pole, then the circumference of this beautiful ornament would be the equator. And if I dim the Earth, we see this interesting image, the circumpunct, which is the symbol not of Earth, but of the sun. The mysteries. Well, more of that another time. For now, let's bring in the cross of matter. And this is the glyph we use for Earth, right? The cross of matter inside the circle of spirit. So what is that circle? I'm just remembering that I need to start that thing over so the Earth will be spinning in the slides to come. So in review, this and that, and this, the cross of matter inside the circle of spirit. And so we must sweep the compass and learn our geometry if we really want to understand what some of these symbols have to say. Half of Earth is always in darkness and half always in light. I mean, it's simple as day and night, friends. You know, this is our primary astronomical experience, and dare I say, our primary astrological experience, and one that weirdly has just kind of been put in the back burner. Though when you're studying your astrological houses, your astrological angles, it is a journey into, sometimes subtly or even unknowingly, into this motion, into this spinning of motion on the rotational axis, on the spine of Gaia, on the sword of our stone, on the world tree. Down here at the bottom is in that moment where the sun is rising, where local Earth is spinning out of the shadow of Earth herself and into the light of the sun. On the right of the cross, we see the midday place, which I call sun reaching its daily height, the height of the light. At the top, sun rest, which I prefer to sunset. And at the other side, exactly opposite, sun in the depth of Earth shadow, sun root. So the roots and the rise and the reach and the rest, to root, rise, reach, rest again. So Earth herself clearly has, from this point of view, two sides. And these are the correlations, by the way, to the astrological angles. Sun rises at the ascendant, reaches at the midheaven, sets at the descendant, and roots at the IC, the Imam Chili, the bottom of the heavens. And so in that sense, we can also see the world spinning through these quadrants. Or in your local experience, the sun moving from rise to reach at midday, which we used to call noon, but it doesn't work these days in our clock consciousness. The height of the light, the shortest shadow, importantly. And then from the reach to the rest in the west, and we go into the night, right? Halfway between sun rest and sunrise to begin the next day, at least if we use light to describe that experience. Halfway between sun rest and sunrise is sun rooting down below the Earth. And in the northern hemisphere, that is the direction north. So we can look to the sky and we can find Polaris North Star that helps us get direction. For if I give that star my heart, then I can extend my branches. I can, reach my arms. When I do, by the way, if I'm facing north, my right palm will be up because that's east, the rise, and my left palm will be down because that's west, the rest. But the energy in the northern hemisphere of the north is down below ground. So local roots, and yet the global top of the tree. Now there's a party dreidel that showed up in the lower left. What's happening there? This is a dream I had the other night, and it's weird because it's this dream that served first and foremost this spinning top as the vehicle that I rode to a place where I was, showing it was time for me to start a school. These mysteries can be so simple. And it's the simple things again and again throughout your life. Have you not found it's true that you're like, oh yeah, right? And it's the simple things that are like the deepest mystery. So this spinning top with four sides, right? This square top for me is certainly representing these four directions, or these four experiences, which I like to call rise and reach and rest and root. Now, when we speak about day, right, like literally the sunrise and the sun reaching its midday height and the sun resting into the west to start the night and the sun rooting down below in the middle of the night, right? Well, dreidel is often played for little golden coins, which sure look like the sun. And it dates back, I'm told, although there's certainly a lot of fog in the rear view of history, to a game that was played in Greek and Roman time, and Greek time before that, where the 4 letters on the sides of the dreidel were used in many ways like the game is played today. Okay, so one letter says, put some gold, if you will, into the pot. One says, take some out. Another says, either do nothing or put all your gold in, depending on who you're playing with, local rules, you know. And the other one, take all the gold, all right? So what is that? I will suggest one is take a little gold. That's the sun rising. One, take all of the gold. That's the sun at midday, height of the light, golden hour. And the place where the sun is said to rejoice in the tradition of astrology, not in modern transmission, sadly. Sunset. Here goes the light, put some gold back in, middle of the night, do nothing, rest, sleep, right? Or maybe all your stuff has to go in, right? So take a little, take it all, give a little, do nothing, or put it all back in, you see? Now, just as we have a sunrise every day, we have a sunrise every year, right? A vernal equinox, which of course in the Northern Hemisphere is spring equinox. And the sun at that time is east of the center of Earth, it's east-er. The sun at that time is passing over the celestial equator, it's passed over. And I'll show you an image of that as we move forward. But we can also say that the midday experience is like summer solstice, and sunset is like autumnal equinox. And this time in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, right? It is the midnight of the year. This, by the way, if you're advanced in your astrological study, is why secondary progressions work, where we relate the time of a day to the time of a year, because spring equinox is sunrise, and midday is summer solstice, and autumnal equinox is sunset, and midnight is winter solstice, you see. There's many ways of progressions in this time dilation. Like some will do a day equals a month. You may know that Woden said to have hung on the world tree Yggdrasil for 9 days. Well, interestingly, we kind of hang for 9 months in the womb of the mother on our way in, don't we? It said we spend 9 months in the temple of the mother, and then 3 months in the temple of spirit, in our initiatory path. So again, I like to call the spine of Gaia, this name for the axis of Earth, the rotational axis. I'm going to rewind that. The equator, the plane of our daily motion, I'm fond of calling the circle of matter, because though Earth's rotational motion does bring us such hits as sunrise and sunset, it really is a motion that's all about Earth, that's all about matter. Spine of Gaia, which I also like to call the sword of our stone. This is the reason for the seasons. That rotational axis, that axis of our daily motion, is tilted in respect to the plane or axis of our yearly motion, our secondary motion, our annual motion, our orbit of the sun, right? So we have an axis of rotation, day, and an axis of revolution, year. And the tilt angle currently between the two is 23.5 degrees. Interestingly, there's 235 lunations in 19 years. 19 is the sun card of the tarot. Well, actually, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh, interestingly, 2, 3, and 5, of course, show up in the Fibonacci sequence, and that's part of the golden. Oh, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh, you know what? Actually, it's more like 23.4. But if we wrote that, we'd have to admit that if we measured from the horizontal, it's 66.6. And, you know, then you get the number of the sun. Oh, wait, that's not, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Let's be here. So north, right? This rotational axis literally defines Earth's cardinal directions. Okay, so I'm not talking about the magnet. The magnet poles, they migrate around. Some have even theorized that they shift north and south, that there's these magnetic polar reversals. at times. It probably feels interesting, if not painful. The poles have been migrated more than expecting. You know, the airports have to adjust their GPS as a result, and all sorts of interesting things go down. But the true cardinal directions are not magnetic at all. They are defined by Gaia's spine, Earth's rotational axis, which points in every moment forever and ever and ever north and south. Earth north and Earth south. There is a global north, there is a global south. And in our day and age, that north axis points to North Star, to Polaris. There are ages where we do not have a star in the center of the wheel of the heavens. Like the Southern Hemisphere does not have a South Star right now. They have to work with the Southern Cross and some other constellations and asterisms to get to that center point, or you can just watch the sky spin and tune into its center, you know. Some 5,000 years ago, the heart of the dragon Draco Thuban was our North Star. And the other side of the cycle, which is now about 10,000 years away, it's the star Vega, and it's said to be the golden age star in the north. Polaris, by the way, is said to be anything but. And some call it Kali Yuga or Iron Age, or who knows, but it feels more and more like perhaps we are the candlelight in the dark age. I don't know, who's to say. Many ancients, many prophecies, and I look forward to sharing more of those and what I've heard of those whispers in my school. So Polaris, right, is here, Earth's north points there, but actually as we move through this slide, which is clearly not to scale, I'm gonna have to take that North Star and take it way off the page, okay? Just importantly know that no matter where we are in the wheel of the year in the secondary motion, Earth's annual orbit, the North Pole is of course north, and in our day and age, like for your whole life, it will be pointing to Polaris, to the North Star. It'll also be leaning towards a very significant place of the zodiac. And it's why, by the way, I can know that in this very much not to scale image drawn here, that it is March equinox time. Or why I can say for sure that when the sun is east of the center of Earth, and yes, that's a place, we are experiencing the sun ingress tropical Aries. And later I'm excited to show you, if I haven't shown you yet, that the eastern sky rises in this way, the eternal fountain of youth. So as Earth dances about the sun in our golden year, we move, shadows change, and the sun moves from the tropical sign of Aries to Taurus. I've stopped here really with the sun meant to be at the next cross quarter point from that equinox place, the next spoke on this 8-spoked wheel of the year that's often called Beltane or Beltane. There's better ways to pronounce it that I have not yet familiarized myself with enough to express this correctly. But let me just circle the Earth at this point to say, look, that particular balance of light and shadow is found only at that time, only at that time. So it's not hard to understand the truth of tropical astrology from a seasonal perspective. However, if we say it's defined seasonally, well, what do you do about the seasonal opposition between Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere? Because the image circled here, you can see much more light in the Northern Hemisphere than Southern. Like this is Northern Hemisphere spring and Southern Hemisphere autumn. What do you do about that? It's a challenging question. And again, even, I mean, Northern Hemisphere tropics versus temperate zone versus north of the Arctic Circle. I mean, there are places on Earth where in that moment circled, the sun actually will never set at all. What do you do about that? That's different than it would be here in California. Importantly, this is true for the whole globe. The zodiac is a directional device, like so many ancient wisdom traditions. It is a system of the cardinal directions. This is my most important thing I have to share to assist in the remembrance of what the tropical zodiac really is and why it is a global phenomenon. Like, it's only at this moment where sun is northeast of Earth's center, because there is a north that is defined. And that northern axis of Earth leans towards the light only on one day each year, called June solstice or North solstice or Cancer solstice. This is the sun moving from the cusp of Gemini to Cancer. And there's so much mysteries revealed in those glyphs, which I look forward to revealing and deepening our study towards. These glyphs themselves, like Taurus, clearly the sun and the moon, have so much to teach us. So this is why I call June solstice North solstice, because at that time, and only at that time, in that moment, and only in that moment, the sun is due north of Earth, as defined by what? By Gaia's spine, by our rotational axis, by the world tree. Only in that moment. Earth's axis leans always towards, well, doesn't lean, actually points towards Polaris in our day and age, but always, always, always in our life and forever, this is the genius of the tropical zodiac, leans towards the place on the ecliptic, which is this circle of gold, the orbital path, leans towards that place that we call the Gemini Cancer cusp. We move from there, and the sun is moving through the signs of Cancer, Leo, and Virgo until we get to autumnal equinox, one of only 2 days of the year where we get that terminator, that line of light and shadow aligned with Earth's spine, with our rotational axis. Right? Tilts 23.5 degrees at solstice time. And of course, from there, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, these are southern signs that take us to South solstice or southern extreme. The only moment of the year and every year when Earth's southern axis and Earth's south pole is leaning towards the light. So longest night in the northern hemisphere, longest day in the southern hemisphere, right? So we can't say winter solstice and act globally. We can say December solstice. If we favor the tropical zodiac, we can say Capricorn solstice, or we can certainly say South solstice. Now from here, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces bring us back to that vernal equinox where many begin the astrological or the astronomical year. And there's a beautiful reason why, because only at that time, sun is due east, think easter, of the center of Earth where we are all connected. And if you want to know why east is seen as beginnings, get up and watch the sunrise. And yet, don't, in our day and age, it's an odd thing that we begin our calendar days in the middle of the night. You know, many cultures begin days at sunset, which maybe seems even more backwards, because at least in the middle of the night, when the sun is at the roots, that's when the sun begins its daily climb, of which we have true evidence at sunrise. Why begin a day at sunset? Well, we have to tune into the year of silver and the beautiful smile of the moon to answer that question. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself again. Okay, so let's see this in a different way. But first, let's address this question. Because if we look at this thing only as a static image, it's like, wait, what? Why would you say like at December solstice, there's Gemini Cancer over there? That's backwards. Well, importantly, look at that arrow, which is currently pointing down from Earth. When Earth at March equinox, aligning to the sun is at the Pisces Aries cusp, okay? So at December solstice over there at the right, we got to draw that arrow through the sun to the left, and we find that the sun is seen from Earth's point of view in the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn. Because the zodiac's not of the sun, my friends, it's of the Earth. So let's take those glyphs off of the, long path, and many teach that the zodiac is like out there. And there are many zodiacs, constellational really the constellations are of Earth anyway, but sidereal, the star-based zodiac, which I would say is more of a heavenly thing, but I will tell you and prove to you throughout my teachings that the tropical zodiac is here on Earth. In fact, it's beneath our feet. And now look at this. So now you have September equinox and you can see the sun in Libra, right? Between Earth and the sun, you see that Libra glyph, right? Obviously not the best illustration here. Anna helped me with the one that you see. I've been animating it, but here I have to just throw that disc on top of the pole and it's not working that well. But regardless, let me just say that North will always host the cusp of tropical Gemini and Cancer. Like that's how the tropical zodiac works. It's a directional phenomena. And now you can see at these 4 stations, we don't need a question mark that at December solstice on the right there, the sun is aligned to the 1st degree of tropical Capricorn. So here's an image just of spine of Gaia, circle of matter, the cross of matter, Earth, okay? The celestial equator is the plane of our rotational or daily motion. And we have to bring in another plane here, this plane of gold, which is the plane of our secondary motion, the ecliptic. Before we were seeing that kind of an orange. I like to call it the circle of spirit because it's where the sun lives. The tropical zodiac is all about the interface of the planes of day and year. I will suggest every planet has its own, probably every star too. It's about Earth. This is Earthstronomy. This is Earthstrology when we celebrate the tropical zodiac. And it's a directional phenomenon, which is a beautiful truth because unlike the seasonal experience, which is a very local thing of Earth, right? The directional truth of where the sun is in relationship to Earth's spine, which defines the directions, is a global phenomenon. I feel like there's been enough today and I kind of want to get to the juice of this thing. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. There is this, I think, very important question, which is how do we get from these 4 very real astronomical points, the equinox points where these 2 planes intersect and the solstice points where they most diverge by that tilt angle of 23.44. How do we get from there to 12 signs? The geometry, the music, the astronomy, they have different teachings and they're all right in different ways. We're going to look at the solar serpent. So this is the same thing we were watching of Earth orbiting the sun, not to scale. This one even less so. Here we're going to see the geocentric, the Earth-centered point of view, just as it is here on Earth, where the sun is actually orbiting us, moving throughout the constellations and through the signs, which, by the way, are very different things of the zodiac over the course of the year. So we begin here, and you can see that sine wave, that snake at the bottom, which is a change in what's called declination. That's just angle north or south of the celestial equator, of the circle of matter, of the plane of our diurnal motion, our daily motion, our rotation. And at Easter time, the sun is due east of the center of the Earth, passing over the celestial equator. The sun is on the cross. Wait, sun on the cross at Easter. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Here at this Earth-Sun node, ahead of myself again, sorry. Anyway, let's just watch the sun move through Aries and Taurus and tropical Gemini until it gets to this north point, to this place, 0 Cancer, this cusp of Gemini and Cancer that is most north of the celestial equator, of the circle of matter. It is the north point of the tropical zodiac. And this is because Earth's rotational axis, which defines north and south, always leans in every moment towards that place. This is the truth of the tropical zodiac. It is a directional device. It's maybe easier to see if we look at this globe like we're used to, the globes in school, you know. Oh, this one's a little cooler than the one my school had. Wait, no, it's the one that my school does have. Sorry, I mean the school I went to as a kid. But usually we do see that tilted rotational axis, you know. We don't usually see these parallels or, you know, wreaths of light wreaths. Oh, sorry, these, these parallels of latitude or of heavenly declination or whatever that may be. Yeah, but we do typically see, oh, I guess I should have just been here, that Earth tilt expressed this way, because usually the globes that we are shown are basically on the ecliptic plane, the orbital plane, and they show that tilt, right? Which will always point in our day and age towards North Star, and always leans in every moment's time forever and ever and ever and ever towards the cusp of Gemini and Cancer, the North point. And so hopefully you can see with this white line here from Earth's northern axis defined by Earth's North Pole, or rotational pole, that is always leaning towards 0 Cancer. Now, when the sun ingresses tropical Cancer, sun shines directly above at the zenith of a place on Earth and throughout the day, and every place on Earth that is on Earth's Tropic of Cancer. When sun ingresses tropical Cancer, it shines above the Tropic of Cancer. Where do you think here in the next couple of days, when the sun ingresses tropical Capricorn, where on Earth do you think the sun will be found directly overhead? You guessed it, the Tropic of Capricorn, the south point, the southern ornament on this tree. So here's the tree, the spine of Gaia, the sword of our stone, our rotational axis, which itself defines the cardinal directions, north and south. North Pole above Santa's place, This is the world tree, which has been known to cultures throughout time. And by the way, if you feel like this ball spinning Earth thing is quite new, as science teaches, well, this world tree works on the kind of disk Earth idea too. I would just draw it in a very different way. The tropical zodiac works there too. But when we move around this Earth and we connect to the changing of the seasons and the way that the heavens shift, we learn about this spherical truth, this ornamental ball of the Earth, which spins about a tree, a spine, the world tree, okay? And there's a star on top, which is called Polaris, North Star. Now, there's one place on Earth where you can stand, and that star is directly above your head. Every day, every moment. And it's called the North Pole. It's Santa's home. And this, I'm sure, is why we put stars on the top of the trees, though some prefer angels these days when they speak about things like eternal life. This is perhaps why we put stars on trees. I'm sorry, lights on trees. Right, because they are the stars. So when you're looking at the heavens, there is one star for you Northern Hemisphere observers that won't move if you're facing north, and that's called North Star Polaris, that star that lives directly above North Pole, Santa's place. And then you will see all the other stars making circles about that star. Those are the wreaths. Have you ever laid beneath a beautiful full fir tree and looked up on that by day and just seen the light shining through, and they're so thick you're only seeing these twinkles of light coming through like stars in the sky or the lights on the tree? And I love too, typically when we put lights around the tree, we'll do them in like circles like this, and then maybe in the back where it's against the wall, go up a thing and then do another circle. Where we're like literally drawing parallels, which in one regard is the astronomy of the wreath. Now, the wreath is so much more than just astronomy, but it is that. So Cancer is literally at Earth's Tropic of Cancer, but I can also call it the northern sign, as I can call Capricorn the southern sign, though Capricorn always resides directly above the Tropic of Capricorn. Dig that. It's also the southern sign. Why? Because that's where Earth's southern axis leans in every moment forever, the south point. Now, only once a year will Earth's orbital path arrange the light in such a way that the sun is shining from that place of Earth's southern lean, and that's December solstice, that's south solstice, you see. So Cancer is the north point. Oh, wait, cardinal directions, cardinal signs. Oh, I see. Now, this is a tricky bit, okay, because, east from Kenya is different than east from Brasilia or from Maine in any moment's time. But because there is a north and south from the center of Earth, in respect to the orbital plane, there is also a global east and west. Global east and west, and they host the cusps of the other cardinal signs. Earth's 4 cardinal directions in the cusp of Earth's 4 tropical cardinal signs. The zodiac is a directional thing. Now, typically, by the way, I usually teach this over the course of weeks in my sacred astronomy course, and it will be at the heart of my astrology school. I feel that when we learn the measurable workings of the heavenly happenings, the quantity of the heavenly happenings, we can have a more intimate experience of, and therefore expression of, the mysteries, the qualities, the correspondences. So learn your astronomy to know your astrology. So if none of this is landing right now, if it's just all too much, I hear you. The most important thing to know is that tree inside your home, should you have one, is actually the world tree with a star on top that's called Polaris. Let's get to Santa's sleigh, but first a little bit more of this solar snake. So we will move from this place where the sun is at the north point of the zodiac, for that's where Earth's rotational axis ever leans, and move now from these northern signs that bring us towards the south, back to pass over Earth's equatorial plane. And they are called Cancer and Leo and Virgo, northern signs that get less north, until we're passing over here on the cross once again at the autumnal equinox for the northern hemisphere, or vernal for the southern hemisphere. This certainly would be that expression of autumnal equinox. This Libra glyph clearly shows us roots into perhaps an older symbol, the Ankh, right, which you can see here in that radiance of the setting sun on the ocean waves. But the sunset of day is akin to the sunset of year, which is clearly autumnal equinox, going into the darkness, but not the coldest or longest hour. From autumnal equinox, when the sun is due west of the center of Earth, and what's a better image for west than a setting sun, we move through Libra and Scorpio and Sagittarius. Sun does anyway, until it roots down below the most southern point. Dare I say, the lowest place on the mountain, where then the goat begins to climb. Now, you could say that that's completely a northern hemispheric chauvinistic thing to say, because of course, this is a time when in the southern hemisphere, the sun is at its height. The height of the light is December solstice down under. I mean, even calling Australia or other southern hemisphere locations down under, that's a very northern hemispheric thing to say, isn't it? Maybe, but I'm going to show you one of the most important keys to the truth of the directional reality of the tropical zodiac, the Earth zodiac, Earthstrology. First of all, look, there are Yeti crabs that live at the bottom of the ocean, just as high as the mountain peaks where these wonderful goats can climb. And maybe that supports this idea of the sea goat, this strange being with the horns of the goat, but the tail of the fish. I mean, if you think about the December solstice sun from the northern hemisphere point of view, that's when the sun midday is closest to the waters below, and then it will climb like a good goat, you know, up to the top of the mountain. It starts its climb pretty slow. Once we get to Aries, by the way, we're springing up like the ram. It climbs a little faster, but the goat can climb more assuredly. Be hard to climb with a fishtail, though, wouldn't it? So reaching down into earth water, into the bowl of her lands, and climbing up to her peaks as well. And though, yes, we have seasonal opposition between the hemispheres, there's something that's very importantly true. And it's why I had to turn my tree upside down in that chart before. Contemplate the apex of the sun's way, which is a very beautiful lifelong contemplation. But I'll jump quick to the punchline of this thing, which is that Earth is moving towards Vega and Hercules, which is north, and away from Sirius, which is south. Like at Earth's North Pole, Vega never sets, Sirius never rises. The opposite is true at Earth's South Pole. We are literally moving Earth is through space, because the sun is, our entire solar system is, we are moving north. And therefore, when we experience the light, the sun moving north as it does for 6 months, whether that means getting higher in your sky, that's true for the northern hemisphere as we move from winter solstice to summer solstice, or getting lower in your sky, and that's true for the southern hemisphere, where of course December solstice to June solstice, or south solstice to north solstice, is the descent of the light. Regardless, it is at this time when the sun is moving north, or the 2 weeks every month where between 0 Capricorn and 0 Cancer, the moon is moving north. Or for those about 15 years where between 0 Capricorn and 0 Cancer, Saturn is moving north. It is an agreement with our global travel of something that we can only see in a way if we get out of Earth, and yet Earthlings have observed, because just like when you're driving through the forest, the trees in front of you open up and the ones in the rear view close, so it is with the stars around Vega, Hercules. They're very slowly but measurably spreading out, where around Sirius they're collapsing. We can see that we are moving north through space. And because the tropical zodiac is of the Earth and of her cardinal directions, we can see this south to north motion, this stern of the ship and the bow, as some of the elders down under have called it, I'm told, that there is a global truth of the tropical zodiac despite seasonal opposition. And yet I still am called at this time, despite my reverence for traditional astrology and constellational astrology and older sidereal astrology and like less seasonal expressions of the signs back in the day, there's something perhaps older than that. So I think I still, in my own work and my own sharing, as I asked to me, like, how do I know astrology? Like, how can I share astrology? How can I help others know astrology more? I've got to get outside and look at the leaves changing colors, or falling from the branches, or look at the flowers blooming around me. Anyway, I want to show you this as the dog charges in. Hello, Isabel. Have you had enough? Yes. Okay, a few more slides. Great. What have I circled here? Let's make that obvious once again. The Sagittarius glyph. Do you see what I see? How about Earth's rotational axis and plane of rotation, the cross of matter, tilted in respect to the orbital path? Now, what about this glyph called Capricorn? And I prefer this style of the glyph, the 76 as some call it, which is actually the tilted axis. And I should have flipped this so the Earth was tilted in the other way. So flip the glyph and you'll see it. And the sun, the circle of spirit, that line on top, maybe is straight because it's the celestial equator, but maybe is curved. Okay, so let's get a little bit astronomical here. This is this very special time of the year. If you look at this longitude that's written at the bottom, clearly I missed it by just a little bit, right? Because it says the sun is at 0 Capricorn in 12 minutes, and the chart says 4, so they're not lined up perfectly either. But this is basically it, especially given the truth that solstice, the sun stops for a bit. When the sun ingresses tropical Capricorn, and this is happening because Earth's southern pole is in that moment, and only in that moment every year, leaning towards the sun. When the sun ingresses tropical Capricorn, it is shining directly above Earth's tropic of Capricorn. Now, from that moment in time, like a goat, the sun will begin its annual climb, or at least we can say, since that annual climb is a Northern Hemisphere expression, we can say that it begins its 6 months of climbing in the direction through local space that we know our planet herself is moving, because the sun is, and we journey with the light. So for me, this is this Capricorn glyph. As the circle of spirit, that's the sun, climbs from the Tropic of Capricorn to the equator at equinox time. So my friend, these mysteries and mysteries like these, that Earth's rotational axis is your New Year's tree, that star on top is North Star Polaris, that Santa lives at the North Pole to remind us of this truth, for this tree goes way back before the guy in the sleigh, pulled by reindeer, which, by the way, we can find in the sky. The sleigh, the wagon, is an older name for what we call the Big Dipper, or this asterism of Ursa Major, the big bear, which has this strange long tail, though the bears on Earth do not. That handle of that dipper, that long tail of the bear, is the beginning of this train of horse or reindeer, which continues through the curve of this beautiful constellation shown on your left, which is called Boetes, the herdsman, who's said to herd the bear, you see, or who's said to drive the wain, the wagon. But when we see the wagon being pulled instead, we understand that it's through these stars of reindeer that lead to the bright red star Arcturus. That, of course, would be the nose of Rudolph, the red-nosed one. So now we were soundtracked by Isabel's chewing of something strange. And may that be a jingle of a bell that can bring us into celebration of this world tree, of this star on top. Santa's sleigh, I suggest you go find it in the sky. It's Big Dipper, and it will point north in one direction, and you can follow the arc or the reindeer train to Arcturus in the other. If you focus in on that northern place, give your heart align to the directions, you will feel the rise and the rest in the reach at your back. And you are now, if you allow yourself to spin with the rise, and then south to the reach, and then west to the rest, and back to the north in the middle of the night, you are that spinning top, that dreidel time. Yeah, you are spinning just like these wreaths of stars spin in our sky. These are the ways that I prefer to help us see the deep roots of our tradition. So again, there's much I love in traditional astrology: profections, primary directions, old technique, and old transmission. Things then were a little more star aligned, it seems, in the Hellenistic time, but we go back further than I believe we think we do. And in fact, we've been celebrating the year of light, the year of gold, since the beginning of time, because it's necessary, whether you're a nomadic or an agricultural tribe. And so I'm really excited to share, through 1 year of gold and then 1 year of silver, the foundations of Earthstrology, where we will embody the astrological mysteries from the ground up. I hope you'll consider clicking this sign up button at geminibrett.com/courses, or just hitting that courses link at geminibrett.com. And you will see something like this, where you can type in your name and your email and put yourself on the list. And I'll write to you soon. And when I do, I will send you a private link to go watch the mysteries of the 7 and the 24, the magical motion of the planets, the Chaldean order, and the magical planetary days and hours, days and nights, and some of the incredible transmissions of how this heptagram, these 2 septagrams, also express connections between the 7 alchemical metals, known for these 7 wandering lights, or these 7 days of creation. Happy solstice, friends, as we observe a retrograde Venus dancing with Pluto and so much more, that Saturn-Uranus square and Mars at the node, and a void moon who has recently opposed that Venus-Pluto pair, and so much more to say. But why not start just with the light? And why not start with the most important planet, the one that you chose, or perhaps the one that chose you? I don't know exactly how that works, but of course I'm talking about Earth. I hope you've enjoyed this transmission. Those of you who have taken my sacred astronomy class have seen many of those things before, but I hope that expression of the sacred astronomy of dreidel and New Year's tree, and the star on the top and the rings of light called wreaths lands for you and makes some sense. Of course, they have many other ways to play, But I start astronomical first, and at its roots of the numbers and the shape and the sound. And I'm looking forward to sharing so much of that with you. So I'm also looking forward to reviewing this chat and sharing it with Water and with James. Thanks so much to those two for coming and sharing their amazing music magic with us live. I hope you will find Water at wateri.us. Thanks also to Erik Deutsch, who spent so much time with me tuning into the new moons of 2022. So we could, I don't know, bring in some vehicles of meditation. I will also say in that process, I've changed my astrology again. It's so wonderful to work with that musically. And I hope you'll look at Erik Deutsch, ErikDeutsch. And if you search that on Bandcamp, I'll put a link for these things in the description of this video. You will find your way to many amazing contributions musically from this master pianist, Erik Deutsch, but also that 13 Moons of 2022, which you can listen to for free at that page or download for $7 or more. Hopefully it's something that you'd be interested in sharing. Finally, yeah, we have a few days left before Erik hops on a plane from Mexico City to record these soul songs that we record of natal charts. And probably have to cap that at like 12. We usually charge $333 for that. But in this case, we will charge less. Let me say $250. And I'm going to send out a email along with the recording of this thing to all of those that registered for it. And I will put that there. So basically, if you're on my mailing list, you will receive that offer for a discounted soul song if you're interested in buying one for yourself or for a dear one as a solstice or Christmas present or whatever it may be. And whatever you do at this special time of the year, do it well and beautifully. And thank you for spending some time here with me. I can feel your hearts. I can feel your love. I can feel your minds in this end part where we start going to play in space, and may it have served. From my heart to yours, I will see you in space.